Tracey and Michele. Take it away, sisters.
Hello, everyone. I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. It's right around the corner. And I know you all are just going to be so grateful that Jesus is a season for the reason. My name is Tracey. I'm just one part of Sisters of Leisure, where we are living every day in seeking and understanding real events.
And I am Michele, the little sister. And, let me just tell you. So I'm super excited because today on our show, we have third generation Black farmers on Sisters of Leisure today, which I'm just the information that we're about to receive is just going to blow us away. So we have Key and Ken Mwanda from K2K Farms. They are out of Adairsville, Georgia, correct?
That's correct.
Adairsville, Georgia. And this beautiful couple, I met them at a Black Excellence event in Bartow County. And it was just beautiful to see their signage up as a sponsor, as a person who sold into the Black Excellence and the ball. And so it was just, when I seen your names, I was like, okay, we got to meet these people. We got to interview them, because a Black farm in Northwest Georgia, I had no idea that was going on. Black male and female on farm owned. So welcome to Sisters of Leisure, you guys. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. So tell us a little bit about Key and Ken at K2K Farms.
Well, thank you guys for having us. We're super excited to be here. And K2K Farms is exactly everything that you said. We are third generation farmers. If I really and truly count, then it's really fourth generation on my side, just from like a historical perspective, but 3 of my lifetime's generations that I'm aware of. And my family that I work with, from being very small, about 5 years old, working with my grandmother and her sisters. And then unbeknownst to me, on my paternal side, my dad's father was also a farmer and community oriented. He grew a huge garden in a lower income community in his area as a sharecropper, and shared with all of the other farmers and all of the other people in the community. And we're based here in Bartow, just utilizing our homestead to grow herbs, fruits, vegetables, fruit trees, flowers. We have medicinal and culinary herbs. And then we take those products and produce a food line called Big Mama's Best. So we also do small food manufacturing.
My background is more like, my father was a hemp cultivator, cannabis cultivator back in the 70s. I had pictures of me as a 1-year-old with cannabis in the back, black and white pictures. Just really in tune with nature, grew flowers, went to the parks a lot, camping. So we were always in tune with nature and things around us. And I've always wanted to grow, and I can grow anything. So we linked up by the Most High and started growing and started cultivating the land back here, which is rocky soil. This is rocky soil in Northwest Georgia. So do a lot of mending, a lot of adding to, putting nutrients in the ground to be able to sustain all the seeds and all the plants and things that we grow. So it's been a wonderful journey.
Yeah. You know what? I was going to ask about that. I'm sorry, Tracey, I'm going to get right into it, because when you said something about the soil, I was, having a conversation with someone, and they were like, well, there was like a soil crisis, like the soil is not the nutrients aren't really in the soil. So tell us about that. What's going on with that?
That's absolutely the truth. And from a world perspective, we're seeing a lot of that. I mean, if you think about modern times, a lot of the modern technology that we use, and then sustaining a world population of the sizes that we have, we tend to use a lot of chemical amendments and chemical fertilizers. We also, as a race and as humans, haven't necessarily been as responsible as we can from an environmental perspective. So it's taken its toll on our soil and on our land, on our ozone layers. There's a number of things, that go into the big equation as far as the depletion. But the primary thing is just before we even knew that we should have been putting back into the soil in an organic manner, or potentially utilizing other methods of growing, to give the soil a break so that, you know, it has its time to get restructured, so that the microbes and like the things that are going on below the surface of the soil that we can't really see, you know, with the naked eye, so that those processes have a chance to play out, and then the soil can support, you know, growing food and healthy plants and trees again.
Okay.
I have to add, this sounds scientific. You know, it's like, it seems like it takes a lot of education to understand about stuff like this.
Yeah.
A
So
lot of
did
it's
you,
very intuitive, you know, and that's one of the things that we like to talk to people about, because we feel like, you know, farming and growing and agriculture it's an inherent right to us as Black people. I mean, you know, there's absolutely no happenstance, if you will, you know, that we were brought here, you know, as you know, Blacks from Africa and from West Africa in particular, where they're, you know, magnificent farmers. You know, they work the land. That's one thing that you typically will never hear, is of there being food crises in West Africa. We hear it in, you know, Eastern Africa in particular, and sometimes in the Sub-Saharan and Central Africa, but you don't hear that from West Africa. Most of our ancestors, you know, as Black Americans, are from West Africa. And that there's a reason for that. It's because we know how to grow. We know how to, you know, pull the best from the land. We know the different techniques to use, you know, and definitely organic in their terms, but especially now, you know, to use in order to get the most, just utilizing the gifts that God has given us, and the intuition and the knowledge that we have inherently.
Yeah. So how is, and so like, okay, and you know, this is a business, you're farmers, you guys are farmers, right? And so for you to say it's intuitive.
Yeah. So like when the other lady was saying that it seems like it's like a lot of science. Well, everything is science, but at the same time, it's trial and error. And just for example, okay, so when we started, the backyard was just all rocky, hard soil. So how we amend that, how we got that to be able to develop and grow sufficiently and successfully, is that, okay, one, so we started adding organic matter. So we started adding compost and manure. So we, in particular, we met a guy, and he had, I think he's from the Ukraine or somewhere, and he was selling these big sacks of rabbit droppings for like $20. It's something cheap. So we got that, and the good thing about that is that when you utilize those, like you can add those at any point of your growing. You can add them before you plant your seeds. You can add them during, after, because they're dry, they break down easy, and they don't harm your plants. So we added that in. Also get like compost and manure from like Lowe's or Home Depot. It's already in the bag, and add that into the soil, and it comes with like worms, which you want worms, a lot of worms, because they mix in and break down the soil. Also, we compost. So all our scraps, food scraps, vegetables, and fruits, we put in a compost. I built some compost bins, and we put them in there and let that marinate. Add some brown leaves to it, some green grass. Keep flipping it, and then you add that into the soil. That's even more nutrients. So yeah, combinations of different things that we've added over the years. And then we do crop rotation. So we plant okra in one of the beds this year. Next year, we're going to switch and do something else. That way, the nutrients in that bed don't get depleted over and over and over, because they have something new that's utilizing different nutrients. And you keep rotating. So that way you don't have the same thing growing in the same place, and it's just keep, taking and taking. Plus we put peanuts in there, which are nitrogen givers. So we add in nitrogen with the peanuts and other things as well. But it's all beneficial, because then we can use the peanuts next year as they produce and use them again. And then the soil, it becomes nice and rich and black. And And that's something that's inexpensive. You know what I mean? It's not something that you have to go and spend a lot of money to try to do. So we're all about utilizing whatever we can, the best method, least expensive, and non-natural.
I love it.
I have a question. So aren't those items that are placed in the ground, like nuts? They don't grow on top, do they?
Yeah, under the soil.
Mhm.
Okay, I thought so. See, I'm not knowledgeable. Okay, so that's why I'm asking this question.
It's all good.
Yes, peanuts and beans are actually in the same family. They're all legumes. Even though we call them peanuts, technically they're not nuts. They're in the same family as beans. And just like how peanuts fix nitrogen in the soil, so do beans. So we utilize black beans, green beans, pinto beans, purple whole peas. That's something that people love. A lot of what we grow is really Black Southern food, if you will, because that's one thing that we learned really early, not just from our lives and our experience, but also from other farmers that we network with. It's, make sure you're growing what you're going to use, because if not, what's the point in growing?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, y'all eating good over there.
So speaking of other farmers, so are you a part of association of other Black farmers, or is it just farmers, period?
It's just farmers, master gardeners, and other growers, period. But we do network, and it's interesting because a lot of our network, just thanks, to the advent of the internet, a lot of our network is very broad. We have communication with farmers and exchange ideas. We've exchanged seeds, with farmers from California, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Florida, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Alabama, New York. I mean, there's so many places that we've had an opportunity, thanks to the internet and thanks to social media, to network with other farmers, people who look like us, as well as those who don't.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say that, you call yourself a farm, that you have to have livestock on a farm, or no?
You don't.
No.
You don't, but most people do. And unless you're just considered like us, we have an interesting term. I like to tell people that we're urban farmers in a rural settings. So we don't have livestock because we're simply just working the land. Next year we will have chickens, we will have poultry, because that's something that we can do, but we don't have cows, we don't
no sheep, no goats, no big livestock like that. But you can have a farm. There's so many different types of farms. You can have a livestock farm, you can have a vegetable farm, you can have a farm that just grows grapes. I mean, you can. So there's vineyards. So that's a farm too. It just depends on whatever area of expertise or area that you want to concentrate on.
Very good. So who is Big Mama?
So Big Mama is my grandmother. That is my maternal grandmother. And oh my goodness, everything to me. Like, that's my heart. She will forever be my heart. She's one of my greatest inspirations. And it just gives me so much pleasure to be able to utilize all the knowledge, everything that I learned, even as a little kid. You think you're doing hard work, because working in her garden and with her sisters, her eldest sister had a large farm where she did have livestock. They had hogs, and they had ducks and chickens, and had a big fish pond. And working with them, it was work, but it was also enjoyable, just because I enjoyed spending time with them and spending time with her. But I mean, I tell people I have a very distinct memory, of being small and working with her and looking up over my shoulder as I've got the hoe in my hands, and the hoe is, twice as tall as I am. And I look over my shoulder and I see, like the stick, like rising up into the sky, but I'm out there, getting the weeds and, trying my best to help in the way that, that only kids can, but that my cousins now, and over the years, they've told me they're just surprised. They're all like, you were really paying attention. And because, we were all out there helping, and, she kind of encouraged us, like, you love those preserves, and you love those, like the jams and the jellies, and you love the soup, because she always canned and did soup starters and pickles and relishes and chow chows and all of that good stuff. So, we did. We love to eat it. So the fact that we got to contribute to it, she kind of underlined that and reinforced it. If you want to eat, then you got to help grow.
Yeah. So so you do make your products and your tinctures yourself, or just you do all of that at your farm?
Education is definitely an arena that we're getting into. We kind of do it now just from like a mentoring perspective. We don't have like a particular program, but whenever somebody asks, or if somebody says, hey, I'm trying to grow, can you give me some pointers, or is there something that maybe you can come and take a look? We do soil samples for people, consultations in order to help them learn that they can grow anywhere. And that's actually our motto. You can grow anywhere. Just very similar to kind of go back to the question that you stated earlier, like, what is a farm? How a farm is anything. We encourage people, if all you have is a patio, grow in pots. If you don't have that, you can grow aquaponically. You don't have to actually be in the ground. If you've got a basement, you can grow with grow lights. There's so many different modalities to which you can actually take control of your own food production to a certain extent, or to the extent that you're willing to go to, or to what your budget may allow you. And at the end of the day, I'm like, if you've got soil, you've got seeds, you've got sun, and you've got water, you can grow your own food.
So I'm going to tell the story real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
So my dad, I lived in South Carolina. My dad he kept telling me he was in his garden. That's what he would always tell me, he was getting in his garden. So I come to visit one time, and I promise you it was not a garden. At least I didn't see it as being a garden. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, this is not a garden. I was just so upset because I was like, what is this? A beautiful mind? Like, how can you say this is a garden? This is not a garden, So like my sister and I was just talking about like seeing, so that you sample, because it's red, rocky dirt almost that's growing in his backyard. He has acres, right?
Uh-huh.
And so
that's beautiful.
And he wanted to grow things. But it was just like, I didn't see how it was possible because it was so rocky and just dirty. So like now I know that, there's methods that he could possibly take, could have took to grow, to make, the soil richer, like you guys just described.
He did do a compost though. He always made sure we kept all of the vegetables or the fruits and we threw it in the bag. And he used that, I think, to help his garden, but he still needed to dig and cultivate the land to really get the fruit and vegetables.
Or he can do beds, or even raised beds, to where you're utilizing the soil, but you're not going as deep in, because you're building on top of it. You see what I'm saying? So then that way that you're adding stuff to it, and over time it will get to the point where you can utilize it even more, but you just have to build upon it. So he could do that, or he could do raised beds to where they're just raised beds, so you just put the soil in there and grow on there, and not necessarily in the ground, but just in a raised bed. You can do that too. I mean, if he has the space, if you have the space, you can make it happen.
And I think that's tremendous. You said he has acres, like that it absolutely thrills me. I'm always, and I think we're very fortunate, being in the South, because there are still a lot of Black landowners, and you don't really necessarily see that in particular in other areas of the United States, or the land that's owned, maybe in more urban areas. So it's not a lot, small, just lots, or, like little small little areas within the city. So the fact that your dad had acres is so commendable. It's beautiful.
Yeah, he does have acres out there in Kingston. And he has the land. It's just, I think he had like a idea, but to me, farming sounds simple. You know what I'm saying? You put something in the ground and it's going to grow. But it's as you are describing, it's not that simple. It's science to it. Absolutely. It's a method to it. It's you have to love it too. You have to know.
That. You see, we both spoke in unison. Yes,
Yeah.
you really have to be passionate about it, because for both of us, it's a labor of love, and this is it's just our family business, but we both, I've got, a corporate executive job. Kenyatta's a truck driver and a massage therapist. So, I mean, farming is something that we love it and we enjoy it. But if you talk to our neighbors, they'll say, okay, so we heard shovels at like midnight. Yeah, that's us.
Yeah, if we didn't have neighbors, I mean, that's when I hear about acres. That's what I like, because I don't want to have to worry about other people. If I want to get up at 2:00 in the morning and work out there in the garden, then that's what I want to do. And
Yeah.
I don't want to have to worry about, noise or this and that, because this is my time clock is different.
Yeah.
And on a farm, like realistically, when people have large amounts of farmland, you getting up early in the morning,
4:00
before the sun comes up, because especially summertime, you're not gonna be out there when the sun is high, because you're either gonna get in there before the sun, take a break, and go back when the sun goes down, because you got to get in there early. So, yeah.
What's your motivation? What's you all's motivation?
Oh yeah, you tell them your motivation.
Oh, okay. So we probably have very different answers for this. For me, it's sustainability, which may be one point that we share, but it's also very therapeutic to me. A lot of people don't even know, but even within our hands and our pores, when you're working the soil, and I like to do it barefoot, I like to do it, bare hands. I haven't had nails in 5 years, and I got nails because we're newlyweds.
She get out there.
Yeah, we were just married November 11th. So I got nails for the first time. Thank you. I got nails for the first time, and it's a hamper. So I'm like, okay, these things are definitely coming off very soon. And you like the microbes that are in the soil actually can help build your serotonin levels. So it works at like a molecular level. And it's fulfilling. You put this thing in the ground, you water it, you nurture it. And then before you know it, you're harvesting and you're eating, or you're giving it to other people, and you get a chance to see, how happy it makes them to eat food that tastes good, which is something that we hear very frequently. And we cultivate and farm year round, much less in the wintertime, just obviously because of the temperature constraints. But like we have our brassicas, so we're growing collards and kale and cabbage, turnips, Swiss chard, beets right now. And people, they tell us that like your greens, I haven't had greens like this since the 80s, or I haven't had greens like this, since the 70s. And to hear an elder say that, like, it's very fulfilling, because it lets us know that our soil composition, the love that we put in, the time that we put in, the attention that we put in, it matters.
Yeah.
So what's yours?
Well, our collective motivation is sustainability. I've always, I'm gonna just tell you like this. So my last name is Muenda, Muenda. That means one who cares for others.
Oh,
so
love that.
Farming and working the land and being able to have a harvest and produce and being able to share that with others, that's part of my motivation, because I want people to experience getting fresh foods, know where it's coming from, know what's been put in it, and seeing it being grown by Black farmers, people that are putting love into the ground, putting love into there, and sharing that love. And so, and also teaching. I've worked with kids most of my life, so, and adults, but my thing at some point we are going to be teaching, to be able to share the knowledge and information to others, so we can, most people say go back to, but I'm gonna say move forward to the place where we were, as far as growing and being self-sustaining, not relying on the government or your grocery stores, because there's a point in time when you go to the grocery store, they were out of food, they were out of certain things. So then what are you gonna do? If they don't have no water, what are you gonna do? So we have to be able to think in the future ahead and say, okay, we need to be self-sustaining. We need to have emergency food. We need to have enough water and nutrients and things for us. So if emergency happens, we'll be okay. And so
I just love this, because like you said, you go to the store, it's all about the bottom, the capital they're going to make and all of that. It's not putting that love and time into it, making that food taste good without all that pesticides or whatever they put in that, some chemicals and stuff.
Right.
That's what you want. That's, I don't understand. People need to go back to that.
And you see how people go to the grocery store and how the vegetables and fruits look. When you actually start growing those same vegetables and fruits, you're gonna see how they really look. That big, the bright red apples and the green, super green this, and how the colors are just so bright, and that's not how they naturally grow. Not at all. Not even if you go to the islands and you see stuff growing on the tree, they don't grow like that. They look totally different. They taste different. So you definitely need to know what you put in your body.
So my brother talked about one time, he talked about a seedless watermelon.
Oh, okay.
And so like it's lab made, a watermelon. So do you guys grow watermelons? And if you do they have seeds in them, or how does that go for you guys?
We specialize in, we don't have an organic certification, so I want to be upfront about that. It's something that we'd like to have in the future, but we do practice 100% organic methods of growing. So, we say, it's definitely all natural, all organic. And then we're also seed savers. And everything that we grow is non-GMO. We hand pollinate. So a lot of our fruits and vegetables, we have, sometimes there's honeybee crises, pollinator crises. We do a lot of what we consider companion growing in order to make sure that we can bring the pollinator insects in. But when we can't, or if there's a particular thing like squash or something where we're growing multiple varieties, we want to make sure that you don't get cross-ups, so your zucchini doesn't turn into a pumpkin, because that can happen, or that your watermelon, doesn't turn into a cucumber, because that can happen if there's cross-pollination that happens. So yes, everything that we have has seeds. And then there's definitely some science and some benefits to what I would term, instead of lab created, I would say bioengineered. There are some benefits to it, because a lot of even like the heirloom fruits and vegetables that we have are things that were cultivated for particular areas, or where two, strong plants were, pollinated together in order to create an even stronger plant. And it still produces seeds. That doesn't necessarily mean that just because somebody, put two things together out on a farm somewhere, that it's, it's a bad thing. Now, non-GMO or seedless, some varieties, things like that are born out of what humans decide that they want. The majority kind of rules for things like that. If you'll notice, even most seedless watermelons are not 100% seedless. And that's just because, over time, again, same thing happens. They pollinate a low seed producing variety with another low seed producing variety. And then you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until you get to a point to where you have a mostly seedless or almost seedless. What we say is seedless, but still not necessarily 100% fruit or vegetable, that has less seeds, because it makes it easier for us to consume.
So what we do is we grow the watermelon, and we've been growing it over time. We're still perfecting the watermelon as far as the sweetness of it, but we don't waste anything. So we save the seed, and then we use the rind. We shave off the green part, and we cut up the rind, and that's what we make our watermelon rind pickles with. So everything that we grow, when we grow okra, and we pickle that, and cucumbers, and we do that too. So we turned it into, and that's part of her Big Mama's recipe.
I've seen some of those. Do you ship across?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We do. And then we also have herbal products. We do herbal teas and herbal remedies, tinctures. We study herbalism. Again, that's just something that, a lot of us, you hear something, right? I'm sure your mother, your father, they have these remedies, and it's
Oh, yeah.
so much of it, and I think that's probably an advantage to growing up in the South in particular. It's things that are just, okay, well, that's just what you do for this particular ailment. And someone else, somewhere else, they've never heard of it. Or they're like, what? No, I take a Tylenol. And we're like, well, did you know that turmeric, has the same benefit as taking an aspirin? It's there's just so much that you can take just from like a natural perspective or from a food perspective that's good for the body versus medicine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what do you got for hot flashes?
It's interesting you would say that, because I'm moving into that arena myself, and so black cohosh, evening primrose, which are things that you probably have heard of, but yeah, that definitely helps to regulate. And there are a number of essential oils that help to regulate as well. I'm a doTERRA fan, so they have some women's essential oil supplements that work to that end.
Yeah. That's an ongoing question right there. What do you got for because you do, I did look, you do have womb, a womb tea, COVID remedy teas and things like that, and those tinctures. I looked at it, I'm like, okay, watermelon chutney, just some really good, some garlic pickles. I was like, okay, that sounds really okay.
Oh.
So
did we exceed our time?
Well, we got 10 more minutes.
Okay.
But I want to ask though, if you were to, like, I see you guys have been doing this for years, I get it, but what is something that you wish you knew that you would have done, or like if I would have known, if you would have said to yourself, if I would have known what I've known now, I would have done this differently as a Black-owned farmer.
I will say, and this is probably going to be something that you'll echo, but I know for me, if I knew this, it's not concerning our processes, it's more concerning land availability. So I would have held on to or worked within my family to acquire more land to have in order to farm and to, teach and grow and have others come and teach them, so that, we're just working with an acre until next year. Next year, we're actually expanding, and it's beautiful. We're super excited about that. We've got 14 acres that we've acquired that we're going to be able to do and produce 2 separate community farms in Polk County on. So Rockmart and Cedartown, Georgia, you guys be on the lookout, because we are going to be partnering with a couple of organizations there in order to have community-based farms. So for me, if there was something I could do differently, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, I would be telling myself, get land and hold on to it.
You hear that, everybody? You hear that from the farmers. Get land and hold on to it.
Yeah, people don't really understand the value of land. Like, you can have a house or you can have property, but if you don't own the land that it's on, it can always be taken away. But if you have land, and this is something that one of the foster parents I used to work with told me, a brother from Alabama, and he said, if you have land, you can always get whatever it is you want. If you need to get money, you can go to a bank, you can use it as collateral, you can build on it, you can use it as another source of income. It's so many avenues you can take with land, but to have it, and I'm from Cali, I'm from San Francisco, so I'm from this inner city. None of my people had property. My grandmother did own a house in Hunters Point at some point in time, but I guess I don't know what happened to it. So I didn't grow up with that, with seeing that and being around people that own a lot of land. And to come down south, I was in Alabama for a good 7-8 years, and then come here to Georgia, and you see so many people that look like us with land, like 80 acres, 100 acres, like as far as you can see. And I'm like, man, that's wonderful. Like, I always wanted to have land like that. I could do so much. My mind just goes like what I can do. I mean, all kind of stuff. I don't even have time to even get in depth of it, but it's all about survival and sustainability. So
love that. I love it because that's so important, you know. And this is I don't want to say a therapeutic moment for me, but it is because, you know, with that, knowing that, you know, that we have land in our family, and it's just like, you know, my mind, I'm like,
oh no, it's such a gift.
And that's what a lot of people do, especially young people. They're like, well, I mean, what am I gonna do? I don't feel like farming, like, but hey.
Or even now, I mean, if you look at it from a financial perspective, and as a landowner, you know, we can't help but to look at the value that's in land right now. I mean, all of us, especially if you have a home on your land, even in cases where you don't, if you're in an area, you know, that's popular, where real estate has a high value, you've seen your value of your property go up, in some cases double, triple what it was 5 years ago. And then that's equity. So you're able to take that equity and, you know, build businesses. You're able to take that equity and maybe acquire additional land. You're able to take that equity and, you know, go into investments or saving and, you know, things of that nature. Having the leisure moments, you can go out and you can take the vacations, go see the world, do the things that you desire to do, because you've got built-in equity that you've got access to and that you can utilize to help your life be better and to help your family's life be better.
I love.
You said your dad's land is it in Kingston, Georgia?
Yes, it is in Kingston.
Yeah, so that's close to us.
Yeah, we're not far. That's why I was so excited to see you two, because I had no idea, you know, like I had no idea that you existed in Northwest Georgia, that there was even a Black farmers here, you know, because it's such a gift, but I had no idea you guys were here. Yeah.
And we're here and we're excited. You know, Michele and Tracey, what we really want to do is to encourage more people, you know, to farm. And although I take great pride in the status, you know, that the Farm Service Agency has given me, and being, oh, you're our only, you know, Black woman on farm, that's not a title that I want to have. I want next year to be able to say, I've helped someone else, you know, move into this arena. And that's something that we're interested in, as well as, you know, encouraging people overall, because, you know, Black farmers used to make up about 40% of the farmers in the United States of America. Today, that number is less than 1%. The government actually stops counting at 1%. And in 2019, we were 1.4%. And now here we are, 2022, 3 years later, now we're less than 1%. We're in a point something, you know, percent. And so we need to really work and to consider and to think, you know, if other people are the majority that are growing our food and growing what we put into our bodies, then what does that mean in the long term? When you really start to look at the cyclical impact, you know, economically, socially, you know, from a health perspective, this is something that we should definitely be doing, encouraging other people to get into it, bringing other people into it, you know, doing that reach back. That's what we're all about. Community involved, you know, very active from an education perspective, whatever we can do. If people want to reach out to us, definitely hit us up on our website, k2kfarms.com. All of our contact information is there. We want to encourage other people to become farmers and growers and, you know, to get in the know.
Yes.
I'm so proud.
I'm inspired.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And we definitely want to connect outside of the Sisters of Leisure podcast, so that we can connect maybe with your father and have an opportunity to see his land and to connect with him, because we're always looking for elders to share their knowledge with us.
Absolutely. That would be awesome. We just want to thank you both for coming on Sisters of Leisure. This has been a very inspirational moment for us. You know, it just helped us to kind of get back to our core roots and what we really need to do. Because I used to be that person, I don't want to live here. It's too country, you know, but we really need to think about what you have and how it can be used for your benefit and your family, because you want to leave that legacy for your family.
That's
yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we appreciate you guys for allowing us to be here, and we're welcome to share what we know and what we can do, and
we can't wait to come back. Next time we come, I want for there to be a third person here or a fourth person there, and somebody saying, They taught us, and now we're farmers too.
Yeah. K2K Farms, Key and Ken, y'all, thank you. God bless. Like, I'm excited. I'm about to call y'all after this, okay?
All right.
Please do.
Okay.
All right. Y'all have a
Bye,
great
guys.
one.
Thank you.
Merry
God bless.
Take care.
Okay,
God
bye-bye.
bless.
Excellent show, guys.